trim up this paper. This is going to go on the right hand side of page 204. You do not need this part. You simply need the question and the box. And this is talking about proportional relationships with tables and graphs. It costs $1.50 for 2 apples. How much does it cost for 1 apple? So we need to fill out our table here. We want to know for 1 apple, but we know for 2 apples. So obviously, if 1 apple is half of 2 apples, then we're going to take half of $1.50. So $1.50 divided by 2 would be 75 cents. So 1 apple costs 75 cents. Okay, then we can figure out 3 apples, and we could say $1.50 plus 75. 5 plus 7 is 12. So that'd be $2.25. 4 apples, again, add your 75 cents, or you can double your $2, and that would give us $3. Your 5 apples, you can add 75 cents to $3. You can add $1.50 with $2.25. You can figure out 0.75 times 5. There's a lot of different methods for figuring out these different numbers. Depends on what you're given, okay? So what we do with this information in our table is now we can go over and graph that information. And so on our graph, we have 1 apple is $1.50. This says number of apples. This says cost. So 1 apple is 75 cents, which is just almost $1. Okay. 2 apples is $1.50, halfway in between. 3 apples is $2.25. 4 apples is $3. 5 apples is $3.75. Now you have to ask yourself, if I don't buy any apples, do I owe any money? No, I don't. So I can put a dot at 0, 0. And once again, we talked about this in class the other day, that's called the origin. Find my ruler. So you want to use a straight edge to connect these. And see if you get a straight line. Okay, and you should. And so it says, how much would 8 apples cost? You have a couple of options. You can go back up here and you can say 75 cents times $8. But if we know what 4 apples cost, can't we just double the price? 4 apples was $3, so 8 apples is $6. How much would 62 apples cost? Again, we can do 0.75 times 62, or we can figure out a combination. So let's just go ahead and do, another way you could think about this is that if you know 8 apples is $6, you know 8 times 8 is 64, you could do 6 times 8 and then take away $1.50 for those extra 2 apples. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is called a ratio table. If I know that 8 apples cost $6, and I want to know how many dollars I'm going to pay for 62 apples. If I multiply this by 8, I end up at 64. If I multiply this by 8, 6 times 8 is $48, so it's $48 for 64 apples. But I don't want 64 apples. I want 62 apples, okay? So I need to, the difference there is 2 apples, right? So I need to know how much does 2 apples cost? $1.50. And so now I'm going to subtract $1.50 from 48. And that's going to give me $46.50 for my 62 apples. If multiplication messes you up when you have to do 62 times 0.75 and deal with all of that, you can use these ratio tables to solve out your answers. You can also use this as a way to justify your answer, to check your solution, to just generally make sure that you have your answers correct. But I know a lot of you guys start messing up when you get to this multi-step and throw in a decimal. Okay? So $46.50. give an equation that would represent the total cost of apples, which we're going to call T, by the number of apples purchased. Cost of apples T by the number of apples purchased. So cost of apples is T, so we're going to say T equals number of apples purchased is N, so T equals 0.75 N. That means the total cost is equal to 75 cents per apple. How many apples could you purchase for $18? Well, now we're looking at the opposite side of this. Instead of knowing that I'm at $62 or 62 apples, I want to know how many apples can I get for $18. Looking back here, I know that 6 times 3 is going to give me 18. So I'm going to say 8 times 3 will give me the number of apples that I can buy for $18. Your other option is to do 18 divided by 0.75. So whichever you're more comfortable with, you're going to end up with the same answer. Okay? Give a point xy from the graph above that represents the unit rate. What does unit mean? 1. So a rate is a ratio, a unit rate. So that'd be 0.75 over 1, but it wants you to give the point as xy. X is your horizontal axis always. So your x-axis would be 1, and your y point would be 0.75. So we would say 1, 0.75. Okay? And we will go over this more in class tomorrow.